Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. Today's project is using the Gather Together bundle. This is the card we're going to be making. You can find it on page 47 and you can still get it at a bundle price with the stamps and the dies. It's a returning favourite and I gave myself a heart attack because I couldn't find it amongst my stash, but I eventually did. And this is the stamp set and these are the dies. The dies will cut out the leaves, the pumpkin and this pair of pumpkins, and in fact there are two of them. So if you're using a Stamparatus, you can cut out blanks and then pop it into your template and stamp away. What I love about this die set is that the leaves both cut and emboss at the same time. Today we're going to do something a little different and create a little magic with these 3-leaf dies. Let's run through the card stock first. It's a square card, so you need Cajun Craze cut at 5 inches by 10 inches to make a 5 by 5 inch card. This measures 12.7 centimeters by 25.4 centimeters and folded in half. We have a bumblebee matte layer for the front of the card and also a whisper white layer for the inside of the card, and these have both been cut at 4 1/8 inches by 4 1/8 inches. That's 10.5 by 10.5 centimeters. Then there's a Cajun Craze layer which is going to get this embossed treatment, and that measures 4 by 4, which is 10.2 by 10.2 centimeters. Then we want some scraps of bumblebee, pumpkin pie and Cajun Craze to die cut our leaves with, and also for the sentiment. The inks I'm using are Old Olive, Cajun Craze, pumpkin pie and crushed curry. We'll need bright copper shimmer paint and a sponge dauber, champagne mist and a sponge dauber. This one is in the clearance rack, so it's still available. A silicone mat, palette knives, the basic pattern decorative masks. You'll find this on page 146 in the 2020 to 2021 annual catalogue. There are 4 stencils in the pack, which are 6 by 6 inch size. There's this scroll one, a tree one, a polka dot one, and this leaf one, which we are going to be using today. Some shimmery white embossing paste. This has got some sort of glitter in it. Last but not least, some holiday rhinestones. Put my silicone mat underneath, my 4 inch by 4 inch square of cardstock, and the mask over it. Now there's a right side and a wrong side, so the shiny side is the right way up. So I'm going to do that. And you have to remember that when you're using embossing paste, have some water handy or a tap handy so that you can immediately wash it off, because if it's left to air dry, it will dry hard and it will ruin your stencil. So I'm just masking it right where the edge of the card is to anchor it down. Like so. I've taken some embossing paste and I'm just going to work that into my stencil with one of the plastic trowels and press it into the mask over the edges so that I can make sure it's all covered. It's best to take only a little at a time, only as much as you need. You don't want to take too much and then put it back in the pot because then it won't be as fresh. Seal that back up again and store it in a plastic bag to keep it fresh. And I'm going to go and wash this and carefully take this off. There's it beautifully stenciled, and I shall turn the camera off and go and wash this. Now normally I'd allow this to dry and harden properly. Don't really want to mislay it, so I'm going to glue this onto my cardstock straight away. It shouldn't take too long to dry. Depends on how thick you have your paste. Theoretically it should dry within 5 minutes or so. So I'll set that aside to wait for it to dry properly. So while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to stamp the inside of the card with one of the larger leaf. And being a photopolymer stamp which is clear and doesn't have a cushion, I'll need to use a pad underneath. I'll also want to stamp the sentiment down here, and I'm going to fussy cut that. I'll speed this up. I think that's dried hard enough, so we can bring the card back and adhere the inside to it. On the pumpkin pie cardstock, I'm going to use a bit of pumpkin pie and apply the ink from the sponge dauber directly onto the die. Couldn't think of the word. And then pop that on and die cut it. See how that's transferred the ink onto the embossed pieces? And remember to clean the die after each application. Clean the ink off so you can put a fresh new colour on. This time I'll just do it with Cajun Craze all over. I cut it off camera. For this leaf, I'm going to partially apply Cajun Craze to the pumpkin pie background and a bit of the champagne shimmer paint. Because this is shiny, I'll try not to contaminate my sponge, and I'm going to use the ordinary ink first before I use the shimmer paint. I tend to keep separate sponge daubers for each ink, so I'm going to, was that pumpkin pie or Cajun Craze? Cajun Craze. So I'm going to add a bit of different colour to it. Shape the shimmer paint. There's a ball inside to prevent the ink from settling, and I'm just going to pick up some ink and daub it, then go and die cut that off camera, and I will be back. I forgot to press record, but this one I've done with the champagne shimmer paint, and now this time I'm going to use the copper. And as I said before, the copper is in the clearance rack. It's not in the annual catalogue, so if you really want this colour, then I'd grab it quick while it's still available in the clearance rack. I think this is gorgeous. I love it. And that's the reason I'm using it still, because you can still get hold of it in the clearance rack. Now I'll need to clean that and store it. Now, last thing to do is to perhaps just work your cardstock a little bit to soften it. So I just use my thumb and bend the cardstock a little. I've already put dimensionals on the back, cut them down to size, and let me see, so round about there, and then you can use dimensionals to pop on the back and place your leaves. And a glue dot for this last one. Lastly, a rhinestone down here to finish it off. It's something different today with the embossing paste and the shimmer paints. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks for joining me today. All the links are below this video in the show more section, or you can pop over to my blog to read more about it. Thanks for watching. Bye.